Greetings. For today's lecture, I'm going to go over test number 2. Um, we did go over test number 1 in class, so you should have taken notes. You should have the answer key for test number 1. But for test number 2, that was right at the end of the face-to-face period of the term. And somebody pointed out to me yesterday or the day before that we had never went over test number 2. And so I'm going to go over test number 2, typing in the answers interactively, and I will supply the answer key that I create on Moodle as a PDF. So you'll be able to access that as soon as I can get this stuff posted. Okay. And then the only lecture I have left is Thursday's lecture, and that will be an overview of the final, or a review for the final examination that's coming up on Wednesday morning. So with that said, I am going to share out. So I'm going to cut off the video, and then I'm going to share out the test. Okay, so here's our test. And I am just going to go through and answer these questions in the space provided. Okay, and I'll reformat it later so that it's clean. Okay. So write a for loop to calculate the sum of the integers from 1 to 100. So that's 1 to 100 inclusive. So we got to be careful of the boundary conditions, and give the code needed to define any variables you use. So I'm going to take the space that I've got here, just like that. And I'm going to switch to Courier, because that's a fixed width font, and it just looks, the code looks better when you do that. So I need int I, and I need that to be a lowercase I. And then I need a for loop for I equals 0, I, and there are two different ways I could write this. I could write that I less than or equal to 1, or I could write it I, or less than or equal to 100, or I less than 101. And so I think it's a little clearer if I do it this way. So that's the way I'm going to do it. And then I plus plus. Okay. Now, turns out I need a sum variable as well. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to initialize that variable to 0. Okay. So back down here, put in a curly brace, undo. Wait a second, Courier New is not a fixed width font. What do I want? Oh, I want console, sorry. I thought it was console. Maybe it is Courier New. Yeah, that looks better. Ah, I see what was going on. I wasn't in Courier New on the next line. So now inside of here is sum equals sum plus I. And close off that curly brace. And and that's it. There you go. If you needed to validate user input, which type of loop would you use? Validating user input, you have to have user input before you can check it. And so top checking loops like a for and a while aren't going to work. Double is just, that's not even correct. That's just thrown in there as a confuser. So it's actually the do while. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to underline it. Okay. and maybe put a big X space out front. Not underlined, not italicized, but bolded. Okay, so that's the one you want to select. Okay, rewrite the following for loop as a while loop. This is simple. You take the initialization and put it in the initialization of the for loop. You take the condition and put it as the condition of the for loop. And you take the bottom increment and put it as the increment of the for loop. So I'm just going to grab this. Okay. Actually, I'm not even going to grab it. I'm just going to go down here and start writing code. Again, I'm going to change that Courier New so the code looks a little better. For the lowercase I, stupid capitalization in Word, I less than 40, I plus plus. This is spilling on to the next page. And then inside of here is exactly what was inside the for loop before. So that's I times I. And then ENDL. And then close off that loop. Okay. I'm going to go up above and see if I can save a couple of lines to get that answer onto the same page. One more line. I just need one more line. Here we go. Okay. So there we go. That's the answer for that. Notice how the initialization up here, and in fact, I had int, so I can do that. That's a little sloppy. That's against my coding standards, but it'll work. Okay. What is the output of the following code snippet? Draw a table to loop trace, or drawing a table to loop trace will help. So I'm actually going to just insert a table here. Change these. Make those cells. Do we have a cell? I don't have a cell type, but I can do that. Okay. So I want a column for I, and I want a column for my array sub I. So when I is 3, my array sub I, 1 or 0, 1, 2, 3 is 5. Okay. And then I'm going to add a column. Insert column to the right and label this one as output. So C out I. That means that 3 gets output. Okay. Now, as we get to the bottom here, I updates with my array sub I, so that becomes 5. Okay, jumps back up to the top and checks I less than or equal to 6, which it is. It's C outs I, which is a 5, and then my array sub 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 1. Okay, 1 gets copied over into I. That gets that is not, or that is less than or equal to 6, so it gets output. My array sub I is 0, so the 0 gets copied into I. Okay. See how this is working? that gets output. My array sub 0 is 6. The 6 gets copied in. The output is 6. And then, let's see, my array sub 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that becomes a 7. I'm going to insert a row below 7, and we're done. I just put X in there to indicate that nothing gets output. Okay, so the output, I should just leave it like that. Design, borders, no borders. Oh, borders, top border. There we go. So there. Nothing gets output because it ends when I become 7. And so the output in order is, because there's an ENDL on there, 3, 5, 1, 0, 6. That's it. Okay. So there we go. What is printed when running the following program? So the program is right here. This had a mix-up. It had an extra parameter in here. So it should have been that. Okay. So A is 2, B is 3, C is 4. I call my bash with AB. So E is A's value, which is 2. F is B's value, which is 3. D is created locally, so the 2 in E goes into D. The 3 of F goes into E. And then the 2 from D goes into F. And then you return D plus E plus F. So the hanging value of D is 2. E and F, E is 3, F is 2. So that's 2 plus 2 plus 3. Okay, so that's 7. And so the output of that should be 7. There we go. Got it all on that page. Okay. I feel like I should change the color here so that you can identify the answer. There we go. I think that makes it a little clearer. That way you can see what the answer is. Give a declaration for an array of doubles with dimensions. So this is a 2-dimensional array. So double, my array, 90, 25. semicolon. That's it. Here we have assignment, assignment, decision, repetition, and sequence. In the following code, identify one of each instance. Okay. So I'm just cleaning up the formatting here so it's obvious. So those are all in the same sequence. They're all at the same indentation level. That's a sequence. Decision. That's a decision. And repetition. So there's the repetition. Okay. Now there, obviously this is a decision as well. This is a decision. This is an assignment. All of these are assignments. This is an assignment. That's a repetition. So there's more than just one for each one of these. And so if you picked one of the correct ones, that would be fine. So what does const do? That makes a variable, and we put variable in quotes because it's actually a const, but it makes it unchangeable. Its value is constant while the program is running. Okay. Number 9, write a for or a while loop that looks for the value 13 in the array int myArray 100 that contains random numbers unsorted. Your while loop should stop when it finds the first 13 in the array and then prints out the index at which it found 13. If it doesn't find 13, you should print an error. And so this is a while loop with two conditions in it. And so let's change this to Courier. Change that. So y is equal to 0. less than or equal to 100. So that's an off by one possible error. Actually, no, it's less than 100. Okay. Whoa. For I equals 0. No. For loops and while loops. I'm getting confused. So for I less than 100 and array sub I does not equal 13. Okay, so that's our two conditions, right? So when I gets to 101, we're going to stop. If my array sub I gets to 13 or finds a 13, it'll stop. Because of the loop short circuiting or the Boolean short circuiting, as soon as I gets to 101, 100, it won't check that condition. So we're good there. Open up this. Whoop. Case that. Stupid word tricks. Close that off. And now you actually need an if statement. In order to get this right. I got to move my heater. It's cold in my basement. There we go. That's the whole thing. Get rid of those blank lines. Okay, so there's your code. So I equals 0. That actually wasn't even what I was supposed to write there. Int I. There we go. So declare I. This is why you go back and reread what you've written. Int I. Well, I actually it does need to be initialized. So int I equals 0, while I is less than 100, and my array sub I does not equal 13, I equals I plus 1. If I is less than 100, then obviously we found 13, and so we print out I. Otherwise, we print out the error. Looks good. Last one is write a function. So again, I'm going to switch to Courier New so that the code looks better. That returns the average of 3 float parameters, A, B, and C. So obviously it should return a float. I'm going to call it munge. Munge. And it has float A, float B, and float C as the parameters. And my dyslexia kicks in. Actually, that's typing dyslexia. There. I'm going to grab this, make it red. Okay. So returns the average of three float parameters. That's pretty simple. Return A plus B plus C. It needs to be parenthesized, divided by 3. Since A, B, and C are floats, the result of that division is going to be a float, and we can just divide by 3 and we're good. That's it. That is all you needed there. If you wanted to, you could define a local variable to store that, and then return the local variable, but you really don't need to. You can just call that directly and return that. That's all you needed. And really, this question was about setting up this part way more than it was this part. Okay. So I'm going to save this as not test2, but test2 answer key. And then I am going to save it again as a PDF. Okay. Going to stop the sharing, turn the camera back on, put my glasses back on, because I was getting close to the screen so I could read it. And so that was test 2. I'm posting that PDF as the answer key. That'll be up on Moodle. And then tomorrow's lecture will be a review for the final. And that'll give you time to take a look at that review and study over the weekend. So goodbye for now.